Very good afternoon to all of those who are joining me live. I'm Neha. The World Health Organization in a new development has stated that cheap steroids can save lives of critically ill COVID-19 patients. The World Health Organization strongly suggested the doctors to use the medication to fight the critical disease caused by the highly contagious disease. The researchers have touted this as impressive findings. One of the critical care physicians even termed the treatment as electrifying. The research was based on data from 8 randomized clinical trials of systematic corticosteroids for COVID-19. While the agency has recommended the systematic use of corticosteroids, it also cautioned against the use of it on patients with non-serious COVID-19. So the findings of the research have confirmed the results of earlier trial where steroids were used for COVID patients in ICU. Although, of course, the research has been touted as impressive, remember, steroids are not a coronavirus cure. That is what the researchers have affirmed. The WHO concluded that corticosteroids reduces deaths in severely ill patients by at least 20%. Now to speak more on this, I am been joined by Dr. Pratik Patil, who is an infectious disease expert. Thank you so very much, Dr. Patil, for taking out some time and speaking to us. We understand that you must be keeping very busy. So first things first, what is your view of the study itself? Would you encourage the use of steroids, and do cheap steroids really save lives of critically ill COVID-19 patients?
Yes. So steroids have been very effective in treating the COVID patients, especially the moderate to severe category of patients. I mean to say the patients who require oxygen supplementation. In those patients, if you add steroids, they turn around quite quickly. So there are different types of steroids, and they are very easily available and quite cheap in comparison to the other modalities of treatment.
Okay. So, Dr. Patil, what benefits does corticosteroids have? And most importantly, the World Health Organization has said that corticosteroids reduces the death in severely ill patients by about 20%. And another steroid, hydrocortisone, has benefits on par with that of dexamethasone. If it is in par with dexamethasone, why not use it instead?
Yes. Now, why steroids benefit is basically because what COVID does is induce inflammation in the body. That's basically what, in simple words, how your body fights with the infection. So that's called the immune response. So there is an exaggerated immune response in COVID, and that's what the problem is. So steroid reduce this immune response, and that's why the damage caused by your own immune system is reduced. So that's how the steroids help. Now, which steroid to be used? So far, we have data for different steroids. Initially, it was methylprednisolone, which had the maximum data about it. Then subsequently came dexamethasone, and this is the new about hydrocortisone. Most of them are more or less same, except for a few minor change in the characteristics, like about the duration of action. But again, even dexamethasone is cheaper. Methylprednisolone was slightly costlier, but not too exorbitantly costly at the same time. And hydrocortisone is also one of the cheap. So I would say any of the steroids, whichever is available, can be used.
All right. So, Dr. Patil, while this is touted as a lifesaver, but we all know the kind of side effects steroids have. On one side, you recover from COVID-19, and on the other side, one still continues to bear the ill effects of steroids. Enlighten us how to go about it, sir.
Okay. So, see, not everybody who has a COVID needs steroids. So, there are few instances where we need to reduce steroids. Like, we should not use steroids early in the illness when somebody is stable, because early use of steroids can cause prolonged shedding of virus and infectivity. So it can be used in patients who persistently have symptoms, or in those who have low oxygen levels, or those with increased inflammatory markers, or severe category of patients. In those patients only, steroids will make a difference in the outcome. For stable patients or with the early onset, early in the illness, they may not help a lot. Now,
but Dr. Patil, I'm sorry to interrupt. Wouldn't those people also bear the side effects of steroids?
That's what. come to the side effects part now. Now, the immediate side effects of steroids are basically your sugars. You see the rise in the blood sugars, but again, that can be tackled well with the insulin or with oral medication. So that is not a major concern. Now, long-term side effects of steroid could be immunosuppression. However, in terms of COVID, we don't intend to use the steroids for a very long time. Usually, we use it for 5 days. In few cases, we may have to extend up to 10 days.
Okay.
Of that dose of steroids should not cause any long-term side effects. So it's perfectly safe to use steroids in these cases.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you just say that there are no long-term side effects of steroids?
Yes, no. If you are using it for less than 1 month, then there should not be any side effects. And that too, in the doses what we are using or which have been recommended, then should not be a side effect. There should not be any side effects.
So on critically ill COVID-19 patients, for how long do the doctors need to use steroids?
So that depends.
Is it a period less than a month?
No. Yes, usually it's less than a month. Most 99% of the cases, it will be less than a month. So
Okay.
most of it between 5 to 10 days is what I would say. Very few sporadic cases, we may have to use it for a longer period, let us say 2 to 3 weeks, and even further less percentage of cases more than a month. But that number is very, very less.
So you're saying that the critical COVID-19 patients need to be administered steroids for only a period of, let's say, 5 to 7 days. And after that, will they recuperate?
Yes, most of them recover. Yes.
Okay. All right.
And you won't need steroids for a very long time. And even if we put steroids for a longer time, let's say for more than 2 weeks or so, we reduce the doses further. So there won't be any significant side effects.
Well, this is something that is touted as electrifying by the researchers, sir. Obviously, given the fact that it has worked on people who are critically ill. Let's say there is another study that's been conducted on over 1,700 people. And out of those, it's being said that over 40% of the people who were administered standard, COVID-19 treatment died, while those who were given steroids, 36% of those died. So what's your, idea of the entire study, as I asked you in the beginning, and do you also see it as groundbreaking?
Yes, it is, because so far, if you ask me, the steroid has been the most effective modality of treatment for COVID patients. And after you add steroids in patients, the change in the clinical status is remarkable. So definitely, this is groundbreaking. Initially, when the COVID came new, we did not use steroids much, and that's why the possibly mortality was high initially. But with time, we have realized that steroid is the way to go. Initially, if you see the WHO recommendation, they were saying no data to support use of steroids, and we were not using steroids. But now, steroid is the frontline treatment for moderate to sick patients.
Lastly, doctor, on a larger front, when do we get to see a COVID-19 vaccine? Anytime in the future? Anytime in the near future?
I would expect by end of this year.
Okay. All right, doctor. Thank you very, very much for talking to News 9. Well,